good. But if you look at some of the previous presidents, they were no angels either.
No.
Look at JFK with his running around with women all the time. Lyndon Johnson was even worse in some respects. One Secret Service agent said if he weren't president, he would be in a mental hospital. And so you just have to be try to be reasonable about it.
I get there. I get that, and I've often said. Now, my wife may be listening, and it'll get me in trouble. My other half, but I don't care if the president has 87 women. I'll open the back door to the White House if he does a good job. I'm talking about abusing the power of the office. If he did that and was still doing great things for the country, and we had to have a Mike Pence, and I'm not so much asking you, where do you think the population is on this? Do they care that we have checks and balances? Do they care about freedom of the press? Or am I just tilting at windmills, being too Boy Scoutish about this?
Well, I think it comes down to just what is the offense, and there is no criminal offense.
Well, yes, I know that,
Yeah.
but when people, even people that think that they do, when they say to me, "Still, we'd get Pence," I take that as an affront because I don't like what Pence stands for, and I say that easily in many ways. But I love our system so much and believe in the experiment that is the United States that I'd rather have a president I didn't agree with than one, and this is only based on the rhetorical assumption that a president broke the law, than one that broke the law. But be that as it may, that's a dilemma I think that the country's going to face down the road at some point in time.
Well, that is why we have elections, and,
Yes.
and that's why that should be the determining factor here, not impeachment. People keep comparing Trump with what happened during Watergate, and that is totally wrong. In the case of Watergate, Nixon actually did fire the prosecutors.
Yes, he did.
He actually did orchestrate a cover-up, including hush money, including giving the FBI false information to get the FBI to stop investigating.
Good comparison.
Yeah,
because he was a statesman and certainly did know better. Hey, Ron Kessler,
Sure. He's a lawyer.
Let's get to. Thank you for that. I appreciate those answers. What about now as we go forward? How much damage has been done, either by the president or by themselves, to the intelligence community by all of this?
There certainly has been a lot of damage in terms of questioning the credibility of the intelligence community. And as I said in the beginning, the FBI is responsible for the fact that we've not had a successful foreign terrorist attack since 9/11, along with help from the CIA. That is the most important thing. They are doing their job. They're protecting us. And in the end, I think very few abuses will be found. Obviously, in the case of the FBI agent Strezek, he made totally outrageous comments to his lover, but yet the Inspector General in his report said that both Strezek and Lisa Page actually pushed for a more aggressive investigation of Hillary Clinton, actually pushed for more use of subpoena power, more use of grand juries. So that, again, is the important thing. What were the actions? But of course, that's totally ignored by the right.
I keep thinking of John Adams every time you mention a fact. Facts are stubborn things. Here we have two people who've been eviscerated by one side who actually were helping that side out at one point in time. But that's the whole nature of the game we're in. And to listen to you, Ron Kessler, it's like watching a tennis match. And it's wonderful because of the honesty of it. Here we know that these people said things that are inappropriate. And on the other hand, they were actually... Well, you've said it all.
Doing their job.
Yeah.
Doing their job.
Now, this brings me to one of the things that drives me nuts about Trump, which is the evisceration of every Well, they were Democrat. They were a Democrat, of course. Now, of course, the Democrats are attacking him. One public figure said on this very show the other day, yeah, you should be paranoid. The other side's always after you. We get that. But when are we going to stop, or perhaps never, branding? Not every Republican is a right-wing nut. Not every Democrat is a socialist crazy. But it's troubling for a pedestrian like myself.
It is, but I think the saving grace is that it's so pervasive that everyone starts to tune out. They become numb to some of these things. In the beginning, some of Trump's tweets were shocking. Melania, I know, has tried to get him to tone them down, but now he does it every day, and so people just sort of tune it out.
What about, again, we're talking with Ron Kessler. You're listening to Radio Westchester. We're broadcasting live from the train station today. By the way, they started painting my building in the middle of the show. They still have police tape around it, so you'd find that amusing. I should get you to investigate them. Ron has written many, many books. The latest, the Trump White House, Changing the Rules of the Game. We'll talk a little bit about that before we let him go here on Radio Westchester. Ron, what are we to make of giving someone like, not Melania, but the son-in-law and his daughter so much power in the White House, particularly the son-in-law, to make peace in Israel, one of the greatest statesmen of our time, and women haven't been able to make ground? What do you make of that?
I think it comes down to, are they qualified? Are they doing a good job? In the Trump book, I say that they, and particularly Jared, were responsible for the most foolish decisions of the Trump White House, namely firing Comey. They were pushing for that, thinking that would placate the Democrats, and hiring Scaramucci as the communications director. He lasted 11 days. On the other hand, I think they are doing a good job in many other areas. You know, I do like them, but in the end, everything does come down to the particular case, the particular facts, and it's not so much that they are part of the family as what are they actually doing. I know certainly the two sons, are running a very good operation with the Trump organization. They're doing a really good job. This business about, well, if some foreign leader checks into the Trump International Hotel, that's helping Trump financially. That is so silly. Look at the fact that Obama, because he became president, had two big bestsellers on his hands. He had written two books before he became president, and because he was president, he made millions of dollars more, and then he got a $45 million book deal after he left the presidency. Nobody talks about that. That's real money, and that's fine. He should be making money. This is their system. And the same. And as for Trump, there's been no showing of any real conflict of interest.
Two things you mentioned earlier, and I put a note down to talk about it later. I used to make fun of Kellyanne Conway 3 years ago, as I used to do bits on my old show that Kellyanne Conway says the world is flat and she can prove it. How do people get the temerity to lie to our faces, and you think that she's a leaker? Because she's obviously a brilliant woman. What is the story with her?
I go with real facts, and in the case of leaking, I interviewed her at the White House, and it was recorded. And let's see, how did it go? She apparently forgot that she was on the record, and started lambasting Jared and Ivanka as leakers, and started making these very nasty comments about Reince Priebus, so nasty that I didn't even include them in the book because I didn't think that would be fair. And so that was a real solid example of how she leaks, or at least, behind the scenes tries to tear people down to the press. And it was recorded, and it was legitimate for me to use it because it was on the record. But that was just one example of how she operates.
I go back to this is just how I feel. It's not based on fact. You're the facts guy and will straighten me out. Are we fools out there in the public? I mean, Kellyanne Conway goes home to a husband who says the most terrible things about the president. Do you think they laugh when they get home and he says to her, "Boy, you really told a whopper today"? Or she says to him, "Stop saying that stuff about the president. Let's go out to dinner." Mary Matlin, James Carvell, I guess it was Mary, I forget her first name now. Do they take us all for fools, or do you think they really fight when they get home?
I have one little clue about that, and that is about a year ago when George was lambasting Trump, and Kellyanne, of course, was defending him. I learned from bartenders at the Leopard Lounge at the Chesterfield Hotel in Palm Beach.
That's the place to get it.
Yeah, that the night before they had been in for dinner, and they went and they danced with each other. There's a wonderful band at the Leopard Lounge, and they said that they were just obviously in love, dancing,
Well, that's
having
nice.
a wonderful time.
That's
Yeah,
I think you've answered my
hint.
question. Yeah, it does. It really does.
Yeah.
Again, Ron Kessler, our guest. I want to give you some time to talk about the book. We've got about 10 minutes left. When did you decide to write it? And without giving too much away, because we'll spend more time on it, just from what you've done here in the 47 minutes you've been here, you're very even-handed with all this stuff. But what made you write the book? And what story do you think, besides the facts, there's always a conclusion, what story are you trying to tell?
First of all, I've known Trump for 2 decades, as I mentioned. I went down to Palm Beach with him, with my wife Pam, who's also a former Washington Post reporter, when I was writing a book on Palm Beach. And I learned from that experience and from knowing Trump ever since that there's a huge difference between the persona that he likes to project sometimes and the real Trump that insiders know. I interviewed and this, of course, prompted my desire to do a book about him. I interviewed Norma Forderer, who was his top aide for 26 years at the Trump organization. She really knew him better than anybody on both the business and the social side. And she said to me that there are 2 Donald Trumps. One is the one you see on TV, who makes these sometimes outrageous comments to get attention for his brand. And of course now for his presidency. And so even if he gets criticism, he still just loves to get that attention, and it raises the profile of his brand. And then she said there's the real Trump that only we insiders know, who is exactly the opposite. He's thoughtful, he listens, he's not full of bravado, he is very, very detail oriented, which I saw when he was meeting with his lawyers and architects about improvements at Mar-a-Lago, and that is something that people have confirmed. For example, during the campaign, the head of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce said that Hispanics should boycott Trump's properties, but then a month or 2 later, he met with Trump at Trump Tower. He emerged after about an hour or an hour and a half and told CNN, "My God, he was thoughtful. He listened. He asked questions." So that's the difference between the Trump you see on TV or in the tweets and the real Trump. So that was just a hint of the difference.
And we will get. Pardon me for interrupting, but will we get an image of this in your book? Will we see the other side of Trump? Will we experience it?
Oh yeah. It'll be the book. Tells the real inside story, and with a lot of anecdotes that really give you a lot of flavor for him, for Melania, for their relationship. Do you have time for one more?
Yeah, sure,
anecdote?
I do. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. One day at Mar-a-Lago, Tony Senecal, the butler at Mar-a-Lago, opened the door, and there was I'm trying to remember that. Anyway, a big Martha Stewart, and Martha Stewart said, "Could I have a tour of Mar-a-Lago?" And he said, "Sure. Come back tomorrow around 3:00 on Sunday." And Tony told Trump. He said, "Fine." But then later in the day, Tony went to check to see if Trump needs anything in the private quarters. And Trump started screaming at him. And you see these tirades now in the White House. You dumbass, you should have scheduled it for noon tomorrow when the club members would be here having lunch, and they would see Martha Stewart, and Martha Stewart would see them and be impressed. And so it's just totally losing it with Tony. At that moment, Melania walked in, and she said to Trump, "I don't think you should be talking to Tony in that tone."
Really?
That tells you a lot, yeah.
It does.
And then, there you go. And the next morning, Trump saw Tony in the living room and gave him $2,000 in $20 bills, would you believe, and said nothing. And that was the end of it. But that was his way of apologizing, obviously. And it certainly shows you the relationship with Melania.
Now, as you go forward with the book, those inside stories are going to be delicious to read. What about in the White House? What is his life like in the White House, and how do you cover the fact that he does, accomplishments aside, he attacks judges, he attacks the CIA, he attacks his enemies the way he does? How do you handle that in the book? Well, first about the White House. What's life like in the White House for him?
Yeah. Well, you know, he is a workaholic. He only sleeps 4 or 5 hours a night. Mm-hmm. At the same time, he does, you know, spend time golfing and going to Mar-a-Lago and all that.
Plus, he's got a couple of young kids, reasonably young children. His son and his other daughter. I guess she's grown up now, but his son is a young kid.
Yeah, he's 11 years old. And by the way, he's sort of a mini Trump. He's very, very sociable. At Mar-a-Lago, he'll go around saying, "Have a good day, have a good breakfast."
That's nice.
You know, yeah. I go into all those peccadillos in the book, and sometimes explaining that that's part of the way he operates. He's like a prize fighter, constantly counterpunching, but at the same time, I point out where he's made false statements. So I think it's a truthful book.
Oh, it sounds like a terrific book. Okay, just a couple of those fun questions. Without giving too much away, because we want people to buy your book, Ron Kessler, what were some of give us just a couple of the biggest surprises. What would we be surprised to learn about Donald Trump?
Well, just one thing that comes to mind is when I was going down with him to the first time to Mar-a-Lago, he imitated the nasal constricted tones of the Palm Beach Blue Bloods, known as the Old Guard, condemning his club Mar-a-Lago because it admits blacks and Jews. And to this day, some clubs in Palm Beach, would you believe, do not admit blacks and Jews. So,
still?
You know, still, absolutely. You know, and they can do it legally because there's no federal involvement, and of course they'll lie about it, but that's a fact. So, you know, that tells you, I think, something about the claim that he's racist. He actually dated for 2 years Cara Young, who is a black model. So I don't know how it could be racist. He certainly does push the envelope on some of his statements.
Let me share this insight with you, minor league though it may be. My sense is I don't think he's racist either, but I don't think he turns his back if he thinks race or a comment will get him votes with people who are. That's my take, but.
Well, yeah, he pushes the envelope. It doesn't go over. There's always misinterpretation of what he said. You know, for example, with the Charlottesville matter.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, there were people on both sides who were fine people, namely the people who were against tearing down the statue, but yet they were not part of the Nazi group. But of course, that all got lost, and he knows it. I mean, he knew what he was doing in that case.
One more question. This is just fascinating stuff. What about this president would you like to see him change most, and will he be reelected?
I think everyone, including Melania, including his biggest supporters, wish that he would tone it down, wish that he would not caused so much consternation that he would get more independent votes if he came across as a little bit more moderate.
I think so.
But of course, that will never happen. He will never change. And in the end, we'll see. If it produces results. If all that stirring up of the right is enough to reelect him. I think he will be reelected. In 2011, I wrote an article headlined "Don't Underestimate Trump for President." And in January 2016, I wrote an article in Daily Mail which predicted that he would be president. This is before he was nominated, and went into how I thought he would operate as president. So I have a fairly good track record.
Yeah, you do. I'm thinking back now to election night. I was at one of the Democratic headquarters here in Westchester, and I still remember walking in early. It was early, and they all had their computers up and all the long faces, and I walk, what's going on? The New York Times has just called it, and the Times of all papers has just called it for Donald Trump. I said, what? Okay, tell us the title of the book, who the publisher is, when we can. So I'll be in touch off air, and I got to get my copy and read this cover to cover and have you on. The title of the book, where we can get it.
Sure. The Trump White House, Changing the Rules of the Game, published by Crown, and it's available, everywhere online as well as all bookstores.
Ron Kessler, I am so grateful for you making the time today, and do you know, and I know this is rhetorical, but do you know how refreshing it is to get an even-handed take on this stuff? Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I will have you back. Ron Kessler, everyone. Folks, if you didn't read some of his other books, they stay in your brain. The FBI book. I can still remember guys building fake door fronts in front of other doors.
There you go.
Cleaning up blood off the floor. You think I read these books, they stick in my brain. The President of the United States scheduling time of the tennis course. Anyway, you can't make it up. He knows what's going on. I don't know how he knows. Do you remember the old honeymooners? I don't know if he uses a corn teller or a Ouija board, but he knows. Ron Kessler, thank you so very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
Very much so. And the book, Donald Trump, how the rules of the game have changed. All righty. I've got a lot of people to thank, and I will get to thanking them now. Of course, Jake, thank you so much for coming in. That sure was interesting. All of our guests today. This program was supported by United Hebrew, supported also by Aging Issues Management. And don't forget Virtual Reality. Plug in Virtual Reality, a subsidiary of Convey Media. Call us at 914-727-2726, 914-727-2726. We can arrange for you to come to the studio, and I finally realized where the camera is. It's in the lights there. You can come to the studio. Jake's looking around for the lights. They're in the circle like the jelly and the donut. 914-727-2726. We can bring it out to you, too. Instead of the guy that shows up with the gal with the little picture frame and you put your face in there and they take a picture, imagine your guests having the virtual reality experience. And what's cool about it, you can watch them looking silly, but you can also see on the screen what they're reacting to, and you yourselves. And it really is virtual reality. Once you put that thing on, you can turn around and the new reality is there. We can bring it out to your party. And the people that have had it, we debuted it at the Best of Westchester, along with supported by the Peppiotto Group, and also at a couple of other events. People absolutely loved it, and from that, they have asked for it at their party. It is still, let me see, 69 degrees, on its way to 76, a little humid. It's warm in here. 50% chance of rain. We'll have a drizzle tonight, and they're telling us tonight mostly cloudy with scattered showers. The temperature will be 54 degrees. The wind will be out of the northwest, 5 to 15 miles an hour. Tomorrow, partly sunny and breezy. The temperature will be 68 degrees. Now, again, a little later in the week, we will be playing some reruns. I know you're not supposed to know it's reruns, but we said we'd be real here. Some reruns and stuff like that as we add more phone lines and more technology to this wonderful radio station. At the station, we're planning with the city of New Rochelle to have a true grand opening Again, we're in the midst of a soft opening as we add product and we add sponsors and we add technology. And as you see today, and it was a lot of fun, and Jake, thank you for that, we took the mic out onto the platform, and we're going to do it again tomorrow morning in the 6 o'clock hour, and we're going to see what you think on your way to the train, because that's where we are. This is Radio Westchester. I'm Bob Marrone. Thank you for listening to Mornings with Bob Marrone. Remember, go to our website, radiowestchester.com, and since I have to remember to look in the camera once in a while, thank you very much for watching. And you can watch us on Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, and whatever else. Our genius behind the scenes, and we'll be saying more about her as we go forward. This is Radio Westchester. I'm Bob Marrone. Thank you so much.